Hey everyone, Michael bringing you another video. We're going to do a cooking video today, and today we're going to do an Asian stir fry. So we'll go over here, I'll show you guys the ingredients we're going to use. To do these, there's going to be a lot of ingredients that we're going to use, okay? A lot of fresh vegetables, real healthy, just a great overall meal. We have one big sweet onion, about 4 big cloves of garlic, 1 large crown of broccoli, 3 large carrots, a can of sliced water chestnuts, a can of bamboo shoots, and a can of baby corns. And then I get Brussels sprouts. We'll probably use half of this bag here. This is a 24-ounce bag. We'll use half of those. You got some white mushrooms. You can use the baby portobellos as well, but we buy these pre-sliced. Makes it real easy. Just rinse them. Got some mushrooms there. Any stir-fry sauce. We're going to try this one out tonight. I haven't used this one before, but you can get any stir-fry sauce in the international section at any of the grocery stores that you go to. Those will work just fine. Crushed red pepper for spice, and then I still like to use the Cajun seasoning. This is great for just giving it a little kick when you're making those vegetables. And then some rice. Now to make a stir-fry, if you guys don't have a wok, this is really one of the easiest tools that you can use to cook it. It has enough volume in here and you can really toss it and get a little messy with it, but it can really help just kind of make that stir fry come together all at once, as you're going to be putting all these vegetables into the pan at once, so you got to have a lot of room. But anyway, we'll get back to you. I'll show you how I prepare each one of these vegetables. A lot of the work in the stir fry comes from the preparation. There's actually very little cooking time, so I'll show you how we'll cut all these up here in just a second. All right guys, before we prep the vegetables, we're gonna start the rice, as that takes about 20 minutes. So let's start with that. I'll show you a real quick trick. So we have 2 cups of uncooked rice in the stove, and we have 4 cups of water. Now one thing I love to do to add just a little more flavor to rice is I add about a tablespoon or 2 of butter. Okay, and I'll put the lid on and we'll start the heat on this stove. Put it on high heat, get it up to a boil, and then we'll crank it down to a low. It simmers for about 20 minutes, then it'll be ready. So now if you'll follow me over here, we will do some vegetable prep. I'll show you guys how I prep each one of these. The mushrooms we just rinsed, they're in the bowl here ready to go. Okay, they were already pre-sliced. And the onions, what I like to do is I'll cut off the ends, so the top and the bottom, like so. And then I just slice it right down the middle. You can get that stuff out of your way. And then all I do is I'm just gonna peel the outer shell of that onion, which leaves this. And all you're gonna do with this onion right here is I take the knife and I hold it at an upward angle like this, with the back up and the top down, and I pull through. And these are Santoku knives, so they have the grooves in the knife. And if I do it just right, the onion will stay in place. See, I'm gonna mess it up, of course. But see how I can get that onion just to stay in place like that? And then once I've finished cutting that onion, I'll just do one right down the center, and that will chop the onion basically. You don't mind a little big pieces of onion in there, because it is it'll cook down. Here's a Brussels sprout. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off the bottom, okay? And then if the outer peels or the outer layers fall off, that's fine. And then I'm just gonna cut it vertically in half, like so. This is a big one here, but it's fine. One thing you wanna look at in Brussels sprouts, if you do see some black rotting in the Brussels sprout, you're going to want to either remove that or throw it away if it's too much. That will be a sign of an old Brussels sprout. Okay, so here's the carrots. Here's a carrot right here. I rinsed it. Cut off the bottom and the top, just cutting off a little bit so that way the old parts are gone. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start cutting the carrot at an angle, like so. You always wanna make sure your finger's away from that knife. But you see how I'm getting an angle cut on the carrot? It's getting a longer, flatter piece. This is good for increasing the surface area of each piece of carrot versus just slicing it straight down, and that gets it a little bit more texture, a little bigger bite, a little more flavor. Here's a piece of garlic. So if you guys have never cleaned a fresh piece of garlic before, it's all about crushing it. So you want to use your knife, the flat end down, and you're just going to push down using your weight, and then that will make it really, really easy to remove that outer skin like so, or the peel. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to slice that very thin, and you can just chop it up. So you can just rock your knife through it. It will stick to that knife, so you have to kind of keep pushing it down, back off. But you basically do this with each one of the cloves. So you can peel them all, you crush them all, and then you'll chop them all, okay? So that's pretty simple there. And then a broccoli, just gonna take a piece off as an example. I personally don't really like the stems too much. You can eat them. What I do is I just cut it up here. I'll discard that piece. And then I'm looking for about probably half the size of that. That's like a good size, bite size of broccoli. Okay, so guys, that's how we're gonna prep these ingredients. I'll do all of this, and then I'll throw them into this bowl, and that will basically we'll be ready to cook. And then we'll go over to the stove and we will heat up some oil and we'll put everything in there and it'll cook away. So stay tuned. All right, guys, we got all the vegetables prepped. They're all in this big bowl here. We're just gonna dump them all at the same time. Just I wanna test my oil. I've been heating it up on this medium-high heat. See how that onion starts to sizzle? That oil is hot and ready. So we're going to take this and we're going to dump it in there. We wanna be very careful not to splash. So we're gonna bring the bowl in. Get it all in there. Okay, so I'm just gonna pour everything out. And then I'm just gonna use a wooden spoon. Get it all in there. I'm gonna try to coat everything with the oil as much as I can. And then we're gonna season it with our Cajun seasoning. And just as a quick tip, this was gonna originally be a vegetable-only stir fry, but we actually were able to locate some frozen shrimp that we had, so we will actually be making this a shrimp stir fry. And no worries there, we will throw them in at the end, so nothing changes, but just want to let you all know we're going to change up, of course, a little bit. All right, so I got everything stirred in there. What I'm going to do now, take my Cajun seasoning, and we're going to put quite a bit on there. There's a lot of vegetables. So get it nice and coated on the top, and then just stir it all up. Now you might wonder, you might start seeing that there's really no oil left, and that's normal. The vegetables have absorbed that, especially the mushrooms. The mushrooms are like sponges. But what will happen is you'll continue to saute these. The onions and the broccoli and a lot of these other vegetables that have a lot of moisture will emit some moisture to keep everything from burning, so no worries there. All right, guys, we got it all stirred up. We're gonna give it probably about 5 minutes, stirring it every 30 seconds or so, just trying to get an even coating. And then after about those 5 to 7 minutes of sauteing, we will add our stir fry sauce and we will add the canned bamboo shoots, the water chestnuts, and everything else. So stay tuned. All right, guys, as you can see, this has been cooking for about 5 to 7 minutes. And the onions are pretty wilted. The broccoli is starting to show a lot of moisture. And then there is some of that juice that's formed from the vegetables on the bottom. So now we are ready to add the remaining ingredients other than the shrimp. So what I'll add first are the canned ingredients. So here's our water chestnuts, and you always want to drain them. So you drain all the canned vegetables, just drain the water out of them. There's the bamboo. And last we have the baby corns. You always want to chop them up in half, or if they come like this one, they're already pre-chopped. That way they're more bite-sized. I'm just going to stir those in. And the reason we add them in a little bit later is they don't need to cook as long. They are processed and canned, so it's not necessary to really get a singe on them. And then we're just going to take this sauce. This is a 13.5 ounce jar. Probably going to add half. Just add enough to cover the top there. That's about half the jar. And I'll stir it up again. And you'll kind of hear the sizzle go away as it's cooling everything off. And you just want to have enough to coat all the ingredients. You don't need to put a ton in there. There's a lot of salt in those stir-fry sauces, so you don't want to add a ton. All right, so I got a good coating, and then I'm going to add probably about a teaspoon or so of that crushed red pepper. Give it a little bit of kick. Careful if you do buy a Szechuan stir-fry sauce, as those will have a lot of spice in them already. All right, so we're gonna stir this up, and we're gonna leave our stove on medium-high. And we're going to probably stir fry this for another couple minutes, and then we will add the shrimp and cook for about 5 more minutes, and then it'll be done. So we will do that here next. All right, guys, we have our finished stir fry right here. We added the shrimp, let them cook for about 5 minutes. You'll see them really start to curl up. That's a good way to know they're done cooking. You don't want to cook it too long, or else they will kind of get a little tough. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a glob of rice. I'm just gonna put it on the side, like so. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's actually better if your sauce and your rice are separate initially. You don't want them to soak up too much of that rice because the rice will get soggy. So we're gonna push that up on one side like so. And then I'm just going to take the serving spoon here, trying to get some of the juices. We're just gonna lay it down. So across the side, try to get a good mix of all the veggies. Get enough juice on there. All right, there's one. And then our second. Get a little more juice on that scoop. Look at that. Look at that. All right, guys. Stir-fried dinner, really easy to make, really healthy, great health benefits, and as you can see in the wok over here, we have plenty left to make prep meals. We'll eat those throughout the work week, my wife and I, and they just keep us sustained. Now with shrimp, if you don't eat it, within a few days, you might want to freeze them, as that will go bad faster than, say, chicken or pork or beef. But guys, that does it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.